Hi there, Kimberly Flanagan of Kimberlys Quilts. I recently posted on social media some pictures of some holiday cards that I've started working on for next year. Yeah, I know it's only May, but I didn't get any sent out last year because I was a little behind. So this year, I'm convinced I'm going to be ahead of schedule. So I got a lot of questions about how did I do that because my technique is not one that it requires me to use what I'm going to call the um, line type designs or red work style designs that aren't very dense. I actually stitch on Peltex in such a way that I can now stitch any design that I have in my embroidery library, because let's admit it, we all have an extensive library of designs we've purchased. So I decided to jump on here and make a quick video for you guys on how I set this up using Embrilliance. I am also going to be stitching out a second video or filming another video that is actually me stitching it out in my sewing room. But I decided I'd get on here and show you how I set everything up in Embrilliance, and then I quickly and easily just take it to my machine, and it's pretty easy. So I'm going to share my screen, but first I'm going to show you the supplies that I use from Amazon. I'm going to be totally honest with you. These are the exact items that I use, but the Peltex I have bought at my Joann's, but with Joann's going out of business, I may have to resort to Amazon in the future. I love that 50% off coupon from Joann's to get my supplies. So the Peltex has come from Joann's, but they have it on Amazon. So let me start by sharing my screen and sharing those products with you. The first thing is I use one of two stabilizers. If I'm doing holiday greeting cards, I will use 2 layers of a extra heavy cutaway stabilizer. And I will show you upstairs in my frame how I have that set up. If I am only doing, like, this one's going to be 1 card, and I'm doing a birthday card for my daughter in 2 weeks is her birthday, so that's the one I'm going to film. I can use just the sticky stabilizer. But if I'm doing a lot of like my holiday cards, and I'm going to be doing a lot, I have a shortcut that somebody shared with me that really saves time in having to hoop and unhoop all of your stabilizer. So sticky stabilizer is a must. Pelon 70 sew-in interfacing. It is also known as Peltex. I do not get the fusible, I get the sew-in. Okay, so this is the item. This is by the bolt. I've seen it on Amazon in smaller formats. If you still have a Joann's and you can get to it, or maybe your Hobby Lobby or Michael's is starting to carry some of these things, or maybe your local quilt shop. I'm a big proponent of making sure that you're supporting your local quilt shops. But Pelon 70, this is the product that I'm actually stitching on. So let me stop sharing that, and I'm going to jump over to Embrilliance and show you what I actually do in Embrilliance. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I figure out what size card am I going to make? Am I going to make a 5x7? Am I going to make an 8x10? Am I going to make a 4x6? Because that has a lot to do with you figuring out how you're going to set up your layouts here. If I start with a 5x7 card, I usually stitch my design or set this all up so that it's a 4x6. The reason I do that is I like to, at the last step, layer my cardstock so that I can have multiple pieces of cardstock looking like a frame. So maybe my underneath layer is a black cardstock, and then I have a red cardstock, but I'm actually going to adhere it to a green. So by making it smaller, I don't have to trim down later and make things fit the 5x7. So let's just assume I'm going to do a 5x7 card, and I'm going to set it up so that it stitches out 4x6, or I sit on a 4x6 piece of Peltex. first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here into Stitch Artist, and I'm going to use my shape tool to build me a square that is 4 by 6. I just start by drawing a square, and then I come in here and I use, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of Stitch Artist and I'm going to center this in my hoop. Now I can easily use these lines to say this is 2 inches above center. This is 2 inches above center. So if I look down here, I'm at 4 inches. Now I can come in here and bring this to the 3-inch mark and bring this one into the 3-inch mark. And I am not quite at 5, but if I scooch this one out, now I'm at 4 by 6 right here. I can make this horizontal or I can make this vertical. I made this one horizontal because I happen to know that the design that I am going to be bringing in for my daughter's birthday card is a horizontal design, not a vertical design. Now, the next thing I do is I come in here and I say create a new design. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to open up, and I happen to have it on my desktop, this design here. I got it online, I believe. I don't want to tell you the wrong place. I will look up where I got this from, but this is a pre-purchase design online. I will now come in and I will say, copy it. And I'm going to bring it back here and I'm going to say paste it. I can use my shortcut keys, but I want you guys to be able to see everything I'm doing, so I'm not using my shortcut keys right now. Now, zoom in a little bit. I'm going to go back up here, and just so that you guys can see everything, I'm going to change the color of this one, and I'm going to make it red so you can see it. Okay. I can now come in here, and this is going to be my outside placement line. This is going to be critical for my being able to place everything accurately in my hoop. If you do a lot of machine applique, this is your applique placement line. I will then have cut my Peltex and my first layer of my cardstock, whatever color that may be, to the size of this placement line. So in this case, it will be 4 by 6. I can come in here and I'm going to go in and I'm going to come in here and I am going to, in Stitch Artist, I'm going to make this a line. But I can come in here, or run stitch, I'm sorry. I can come in here and I can adjust the length. This is a placement line, so I might make it a long length. I don't need it to be, I mean, it's just a placement line for me to use as guides. I don't need it to be really small. I don't want it to be, just let it go. Make it a long length. Now I can come in on my design. I don't have to do anything with. It's exactly as I purchased it. The next thing that I'm going to add down here at the bottom is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say create design, and I'm going to say begin new design. I am now going to come in and I am going to put a second placement line. And this is going to be using my shapes tools again. I can do a square, I can do a circle, I can do a star, I can do any of these shapes that exist. The two most common ones I use is the rectangle or the circle that will make an oval. So let's make a circle around this. And this one, I can now just eyeball it, okay? I'm going to come in here. I'm going to leave this red as well so that you can see it. At this point, I will center this circle in my hoop. So I'm going to turn Stitch Artist off and I'm going to come in here and center that in my hoop. Now I can come back and choose my design, and I'm going to now center that in my oval. I might want to make my oval bigger, because as you can see, this is going to be close. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make my oval a little bit bigger. And I'm going to come in here and center it again. And I'm going to, I think that looks pretty good. I think that the happy birthday is kind of centered in there well. I might move the happy birthday up just a smidge because if you notice, I've got some of that confetti at the top. So now it'll make it visually appear more balanced. So now that I have my placement line, I have my design, I have my second placement line, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make this one. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. I do this after I know that this oval, square, or whatever shape you create it to be, is the right size for what's in my design, because these two, 4.1 and 4.2, need to be the exact same size. I'm going to come in and I'm going to make the first one in Stitch Artist a run stitch. Again, I can come in here and I can adjust the length and make it whatever length I want. That's fine. This one I tend to keep down closer to 2.5 inches, somewhere in that area. Then I come into the second one and I make this one of two things. I either make it an applique stitch or a motif. My favorite is the motif, but if you really want to put, say, the blanket stitch or the E stitch, zigzag, those are all under your applique stitches. I stay away from the satin stitch. That will result in a stitch intensive design that will perforate your paper and end up invalidating everything you've just done. But I really like to go in and make these motif stitches. So if you go in here, you can see that if I add motifs, I have a whole bunch of motif options here that I can choose from. And you can go through and explore these on your own, but say I did that one. You can see that I'm now creating a new and different motif design. I'm being very creative with what I'm doing. I can now come in here and I can mess with the gaps and the heights and the widths, and I can add as many of these motifs that I want by using this plus button. Say I now want to come in here and I want to add, let's go to a different one. Let's go to the, say I want to come in here and add the circle. I can make this as unique as I want it to be. This here is actually, this stitch is what is attaching your Peltex to your cardstock. For me, I kind of only want this, what I'm going to call star. Well, they call it star 3. So I'm going to remove these other two. And as you can see here, it doesn't quite match over here. So how can I fix that? I can fix that by coming in and adjusting my gap. If I come in here and didn't take it the right direction. So let's come down here. Now you can see that that gap is filled up. I can adjust the height, I can adjust the width, I can adjust the rotation. I can do a lot of customizing my various motifs right here and making the exact design here that I want. Now, if you notice, my star stitches are now going to come out and get too close to my top up here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to hold down my shift key and select both of those because I want both of these to remain the same size. And I'm going to pull them in slightly from the bottom so that now I have a nice little gap. I'm not going to be stitching off the edge of my card. So I now have my run stitch. I have my design. I have my next run stitch, and then I have my motif. At this point, I can save this, take it to my machine in whatever format machine that I have, and I can stitch this out. How do I do that? I'll give you a brief overview right now, but I am going to take this up to my sewing room and actually stitch this out, and I will make a video of that. What I do is I come in and I stitch out, if we start at the beginning, this placement line. At that point, I will have just had this square, and this is what I'm going to use to cut my 4x6 piece of Peltex. I'm then going to put that down on top of that 4x6 line. I will stitch the happy birthday design out next, and I will now have a 4x6 piece of Peltex that has happy birthday stitched on it. I gently pull back from the corners, the Peltex, and I will now have a perforated piece of stabilizer there that it's really easy. Do not remove it from your hoop because you need it still in there lined up for the next steps. But it will tear easily if you're just really gentle with it. Most of the times, I don't even have to be that gentle with it because it's perforated it pretty well. If you need to put your scissors in there and cut a piece here or there, that's fine, but you're going to find that it comes out pretty easy. I then will take that 4x6 piece of cardstock that is the first layer of what I'm going to call the frames, and I put that underneath of my Peltex, and I now have that sticky stabilizer with the placement line still in my hoop because I did not remove it. And I will put that 4x6 piece of cardstock on top. Now I will put my Peltex directly on top of that as well. Once I have the two of those down, I will then come here and I will stitch out this run line. If go back to thinking about applique, this is my placement line. I'm now holding this in place. I'm sorry, not my placement line, but it's that tack down stitch. So I've now tacked this down in place. I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine, but do not remove your stabilizer from your hoop. I, at this point, will trim along this tack down stitch all the way around my card. The next thing that I will do is put this back in my hoop and finish up with my motif stitch. When I do that, I have now adhered my piece of Peltex to my cardstock in such a way that it's now permanently affixed. I can use double-sided tape or double-sided craft tape. There's a lot of them out there. I do have my favorites, but we can all, you know, I'm sure you guys have yours as well. And I adhere this 4x6 card to the 5x7 card. I would then have my Peltex. It does come in white and black, so my white or black background. I then have my colored card stock here, and then I have my outer cardstock. I sometimes will do a third cardstock if I really want to get decorative. So that's how I do it. Pretty simple. Lots of options with you coming in here and using your various motif stitches. The last thing I want to point out is if you're using Embrilliance like I am, please make sure that you're utilizing all of the free motif stitches that are sometimes randomly associated with projects that they put out there. They are very generous with sharing new motifs, new fills, new designs based on projects that they work on. I have a lot of motifs in my drop down here that you may not have in yours yet because you have not gone out to the Embrilliance website and downloaded those and brought those over and loaded them into your software. I hope this helped you guys. If not, send me a question. Look out for the next video on how to actually take this upstairs and stitch it out, because that will be my next video. Enjoy, happy card making, and it's never too early to get ready for the holidays. Thanks.